Attention la corde aussi. Les amis, attention la corde.
Ah, wish Now we are going. Что-то скажи привет.
Alona, Anastasia, Olivia.
grade 7s, and yes, the grade 6s. Sorry, I forgot about you when we called you to the gym. Well, St. Thomas, we have a real treat today. We have the brother of Terry Fox visiting our school, Fred Fox. And I did have the chance a little bit before this assembly to talk to him about his life a little bit with his brother. I have 6 brothers, and so I know what brothers do. And it's going to be awesome to hear some stories about Fred and Terry because they're only 15 months apart. So they were brothers probably like this and like this, just like you have brothers. And so at the end of this assembly, of course, we're going to give him a very welcome to St. Thomas, where we may have a surprise for you. But I'm going to hold that to the end. And so would you please join me in welcoming Terry Fox's brother, Fred Fox.
Well, thank you very much. Awesome to be here at St. Thomas. You know, it's awesome to be here, and I've been traveling for a couple of weeks now. I left home 2 weeks ago yesterday, making my way across Canada. I was in Ontario 2 weeks ago, and then I was in New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland. Flew from St. John's on Sunday to Regina. Drove from Regina on Sunday night to Saskatoon. We spent all day yesterday in Saskatoon, and I drove from Saskatoon to Lloydminster here this morning. So, and at the end of the day here today, I'm going to be driving after dinner tonight to Edmonton, spending a day or two there, and then driving down to Calgary. And I get to go home on Friday the 16th. Friday morning, I fly home, and then I get to participate with my family in the Terry Fox Run in where I live in Maple Ridge, just east of Vancouver. And I understand that you guys are having your Terry Fox Walk run on Friday, so that's amazing. It's so wonderful to be able to be with you today because we weren't able to do this for the last 2 years in person. Last year I did a lot of virtual presentations from sitting in front of my laptop in my office or in our boardroom at the Terry Fox Foundation office. Last year I spoke to over 60,000 students across Canada virtually. And it was amazing to be able to do that in that way, but this is better to be able to do it in person, and we're so looking forward to on the weekend being together with so many people back together participating in Terry Fox runs. I'm hoping today I can share a little bit about Terry, and as mentioned, we're only 14 months apart in age. I'm the older brother, and just like you've got an older brother, younger brother, sister. We did everything together. We played together, we competed against each other, we challenged each other, we did all kinds of different things. We didn't always get along. Sometimes we would have fought, but that's the way siblings, things happen when you're younger. And so hoping I could share a little bit about what Terry was like when he was your age and as he grew up before, during the Marathon of Hope. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to be walking back and forth to switch the slide. So I live in British Columbia, not far from Vancouver in Maple Ridge. And that's not where it all began for Terry and I. We were raised or born in Winnipeg. Mom and Dad were both born in Winnipeg, and our dad in Winnipeg, Mom in a small farming community, and it was just this picture here. It was just Terry and I. Terry's 2, I'm 3. Our brother Daryl, sister Judy weren't born yet, and so it was just him and I. And we did everything you did when you were that young. Terry's the one sitting at the back of the little car. I'm the one in front driving. Here I was, only 3 years old, and I was driving. I was already driving the car. The little guy sitting between Terry and I is our younger brother Daryl. If you know anything about the Marathon of Hope, you know that Terry had a good friend, Doug Allward. And Doug was the one who drove the Camp Rise van, supported Terry along the way, did lots of things for Terry. They arrive in Newfoundland. They're only 21 years old. You know, Terry was running every day. Doug had lots of responsibilities, and totally to be expected, they just at one point weren't getting along very well. Lots of pressure on each one of them. I was asked to join Terry and Doug, but I was not living at home at the time. I was just a little bit older than Terry, doing my own thing, couldn't get away from work. Our younger brother Daryl, who was graduated from high school in 1980, was asked to join them. They let him go a little bit early in the middle of May or end of May, joined them in St. John, New Brunswick, helped out with some of the chores, and after that, everything went pretty smoothly. Terry is 4, I'm 5. Christmas, way back in 1962, our mom used to travel across Canada, and she used to share this story about Terry when she spoke to schools like yours. She talked about Terry being 4 years old, sitting in our living room, trying to make a pyramid out of wooden blocks. He'd get maybe 3 or 4 rows built up of the blocks, and they would fall down. So he'd build it back up again, get a few more, and they would tumble down again. Mom was in the kitchen watching what Terry was doing, and she noticed that Terry never thought about quitting. He never got mad or frustrated or went on to something else. He stuck with it. Built all those rows up. It's getting higher and higher and higher, and finally, taking that shape of a pyramid, he gets the very last block on. When Mom shared that story, she would say to her audience, like you guys, I wonder if, even at 4 years old, if that was an early indication of that determination, that never quit attitude that Terry had. Now, you may not know this. I'm wearing this year's Terry Fox Run t-shirt. And this year's phrase for the t-shirt is, I'm not a quitter. On this shirt, it's on my sleeve. I'm not a quitter. The real quote is, nobody is ever going to call me a quitter. And that's kind of what Terry's attitude was. Mom and Dad moved us to British Columbia in 1966. Terry was 8, I was 9. Mom and Dad taught us that it was important to have good manners, respect other people, work hard, and our mom would say to us all the time, finish what you start. If you start something, you see it to the end. When we were really young, it might have been something as simple as coloring a picture in a coloring book. When we color that picture, you know, we have, even if we're making a mess of it, we have to finish it before we turn the page. And that's the way it was. Even in sports, it was, you know, we had to finish what we start, and that's what Terry did from a very young age. Good, perfect. So in that last picture too, you know, we had just moved to Surrey, and Mom and Dad didn't have an automatic dishwasher, and we had to help her out do the dishes, Terry and I. So Terry, Daryl, Judy, and I. Judy, the little one in front, Judy is 7 years younger than Terry, and Judy used to do and work with all of the countries around the world that had Terry Fox runs. And there's something like 20 or 25 countries around the world that have Terry Fox runs. So it's amazing to know that Terry's message of hope isn't only here in Canada, but around the world. Terry loved to play sports. I'm sure many of you play different sports. Terry loved to compete, loved to challenge himself. We moved to Port Coquitlam in 1968. Terry was 10. And this is where Terry met his good friend Doug Allward. Not sure if you can tell, but If you see the coach right there, the first player beside the coach standing up is Terry, and then the next player with the gray sweatshirt is Doug Aller, Terry's friend. Here they are, 10 years old. They had just met each other playing soccer. They went to different elementary schools. They're standing shoulder to shoulder. At 10 years old, no one could have ever have known that 12 years later they'd be making their way across Canada. Terry loved to compete, loved sports, played everything, tried everything. Terry wasn't afraid to fail. If he wasn't very good at a sport, he just knew he was going to have to work a little bit harder at it. 4 Fox kids again. Terry is the one in the white sweat vest. Our elementary schools, our public schools that we went to, same as yours, elementary went to grade 7, but we had junior high schools that went from grade 8 to 10. Terry started the grade 8 year. I was in grade 9. I don't exaggerate when I tell you that he was probably one of the smaller boys, shorter boys in all the school. But Terry decided, even though he was short, he was going to still try out for the grade 8 basketball team. He practiced a few weeks. Coach came to Terry, said, you know what, Terry, I don't know if you're going to get to play very much. You're not very tall. Your skill level is getting good every day, better every day, but maybe the wrestling team, cross-country team might be better. Terry took that as a challenge. Every day after that, he'd be in the gym practicing. On the weekend, he would practice. He never quit that grade 8 year. By the time he got to grade 10, he was one of the starting guards and the captain of the team. That came out of hard work and determination. Okay? Terry graduated from high school in 1976. This school today is called Terry Fox Secondary. During that summer before university started, Terry would tell his friends that when he's going to university, he's going to try out for the basketball team there. His friends would kind of laugh at him. They'd say, Fox, don't waste your time. You're never going to make a university team. Like, don't even waste your time. Terry would simply say, I won't know unless I try. And that's exactly what Terry did. He went to Simon Fraser University in the Vancouver area, tried out for the team. On guts and determination, he made the junior varsity team. Coaches would tell our mom and dad, we couldn't cut Terry. He made every one of those other players better by his work ethic. He wasn't the best athlete or best player. He was the hardest worker, and everybody around him would be better because of that. Go ahead. It was during that year at university that Terry was playing other sports, and he developed a bit of a sore knee, thought it was an injury from playing rugby. He ignored the pain, woke up one morning in March of 1977. He thought that maybe the pain was so bad that he could hardly walk. Our dad took Terry to the hospital. They did some tests, and they found he had a type of bone cancer. Terry was told in 4 days he was going to lose part of his right leg. He was only 18 years old. Some of you might have a brother or sister or a cousin close to that age. I was 19. I said to Terry, why do you have to have cancer? All your dreams are coming true. Terry would say, Fred, why not me? I've been told all my life I'm not big enough, I'm not good enough. This is just another challenge I have to overcome. Terry had his operation the next morning. Within about 2 weeks, he was fitted with an artificial leg, learning to walk all over again. The people at the rehab center, they couldn't believe how determined Terry was. But that's the way Terry was. He wasn't going to sit around the house and feel sad for himself or anything like that. He was going to turn this into something positive. It was really the next 16 months that impacted Terry the most. He had to take chemotherapy treatment, which is drugs that help get rid of any cancer. He saw other people going through the same thing. The chemotherapy made him very sick. But it soon became apparent it didn't matter how sick he was more concerned and more worried about other people. And Terry wanted to do something about it. Terry started to train. He started to run in 1979, 2 years after he was diagnosed. Not very many people back then were running with artificial legs. The artificial leg that Terry had was designed for walking, not for running. Terry started running maybe only 100 meters, then 200 meters, and then every day increasing his mileage. Part of his training happened at Simon Fraser University. and he would build his mileage up. Terry started to play wheelchair basketball. He thought he'd never be able to play sports again, but he was able to compete at wheelchair basketball at a very high level. A couple of trophies that Terry and the team from BC won at national championship. Terry's birthday, July 28th, 1979, 21 years old. He's in really good shape. He's probably running 20 kilometers a day. He tells our mom and dad the reason he's running is he wants to run the Vancouver Marathon. That will take place in May of 1980, about 10 months after his birthday. Go ahead. About a month after Terry's birthday, Labor Day long weekend, Terry, our brother Daryl, Doug Allward, Terry's friend, go to Prince George, BC, about an hour or 8 hours north of Vancouver. Terry is going to run this race. He starts at the start line with everybody else. He's the only one with an artificial leg. Everybody else is able-bodied like you and me. Starts at the start line with everybody else, but when that race is finished, he comes underneath that finish banner in last place. But being last wasn't a big deal to Terry. All that mattered that day was he accomplished his goal of finishing the run. He finished what he started. That thing that Mom would say to us all of the time. Terry came home and told our mom the reason, he said to Mom, I haven't been completely honest. I haven't been running and training because I want to run the Vancouver Marathon, but I want to run across Canada to raise money for cancer research so no one else will ever have to suffer the cause of cancer. Mom got a little upset with Terry. She said, why would you do that? It's a silly idea. Just run through BC. Finish in Vancouver. Raise money that way. And Terry would say, Mom, not only people in BC get cancer, people right across Canada do. I have to start in St. John's, Newfoundland. And that's what Terry did on April 12, 1980, over 42 years ago now. Terry, again, 12 years later, standing shoulder to shoulder with his good friend, Doug Allward. Terry thought that maybe when he arrived in Newfoundland, running across Canada, he could raise $1 million. Terry made his way through Newfoundland. Not very many people knew what he was doing, but slowly more and more people realized. The media got on board. Terry started raising more money. He was very happy with the response he was getting. He gets to Port aux Basques, where you catch the ferry to get to Cape Breton, and Port aux Basques raises $10,000. The population of the community was about 10,000 people. Terry thought, if they can raise $1 for every person in town, why not raise $1 for every Canadian? And that became his new goal. Go ahead. Terry ran through Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, PEI, Quebec, then arriving in Ontario. And that's where things really really the momentum built. More people in Ontario, of course, more money was being raised. Terry was being so well received. The media was really on board at this point. It was amazing. I got to be with Terry in Toronto for about 3 days. At City Hall, there was 10,000 people in Toronto. It was quite a thing. Go ahead. I was with Terry for about 3 days in Toronto. I took this picture on July 13th. Terry ran through all kinds of weather. Heat, the hot, muggy weather in Toronto, cold weather in Newfoundland, strong winds along the St. Lawrence River. I'm sure all of those conditions and the terrain that Terry ran on took its toll on his health. Go ahead. I was only with Terry in Toronto, like I mentioned, for a few days. I went home back to work. A month later, I'm on vacation, and my wife, soon-to-be wife, Teresa, and I were on vacation. We drove east and found Terry, Daryl, and Doug in Northern Ontario. It's about August 15th, August 16th on that picture. It was amazing to see Terry run. You know, Terry Fox was running 42 kilometers almost every day. An average of 42 kilometers every day for 143 days. Terry Fox wasn't running, not to be known as a Canadian hero, not to be famous, not to benefit and be rich by what he was doing. He was running to make a difference in the lives of other people. Terry actually said in one of his journal entries when he was in Newfoundland, He said, if I quit now, I'll be letting so many people down. Nothing was going to cause Terry to stop his Marathon of Hope. It was amazing to watch Terry run. Terry set goals for himself every day. He didn't get out on the highway in the morning early on the highway at 5 every morning thinking that he was going to run 42 kilometers that day, but he would set goals. Maybe the first one in the distance, he'd see a telephone pole. Then he'd accomplish that goal. Then maybe it was a tall tree in the distance, maybe a curve in the highway. He would set little goals for himself throughout the day, accomplish those, and before you knew it, maybe he ran 42 kilometers, maybe some days as many as 50. Go ahead. They kept track of the mileage on the side of the van, miles, not kilometers. At this point, Terry's really concerned about when he's going to get home to Vancouver. And at this point, it looks like not until December and running through the Rocky Mountains in the middle of winter. The last picture taken of Terry and I during the Marathon of Hope, it's August 19th. A few minutes later, he's back on the highway running west. Teresa and I had to get back to work. We drove west, arriving back in the Vancouver area about 3 or 4 days later. Imagine now, it's 12 days after that picture was taken. It's September 1st, and I'm with my mom and dad. We're in Chilliwack, BC, about an hour and a half east of Vancouver. We're at a fundraising event. At the end of the day, we're heading home. Our dad's driving. He turns on the radio to listen to the news, and the very first news story on the radio was Terry Fox is in hospital in Thunder Bay. No cell phones. Nobody could phone mom and dad and let them know or text them. We were an hour away from their house. We arrived at mom and dad's house, and then we got out of the car, and you could hear the phone ringing. Mom ran into the house to answer the phone, and it was Terry. 3 hours difference between Ontario and BC, so he'd been calling all day. And Terry says to our mom, "Mom, did you hear the news?" And she goes, "Well, we heard you're in hospital. What's going on?" And Terry would say, "Mom, I need to come back home. The cancer has returned to my lungs. I need to come home and get better." Our mom and dad flew to Thunder Bay to bring Terry home. I stayed with our sister Judy, not quite old enough to be overnight by herself. We watched the news the next day. And there was Terry, laying flat on his back on the stretcher before they put him on the airplane, talking to all of Canada through the media. Terry said, if I'm able to, I'll get back out there and finish my run again. But if I'm not able to, I don't want one single person to run those miles from Thunder Bay to Vancouver Island for me, but I hope all of Canada continues my dream. Terry came home. About 2 weeks later, Terry received the Companion of the Order of Canada, the highest honor any ordinary Canadian citizen can receive. The Governor General came from Ottawa, presented at City Hall in Port Coquitlam. Later that evening, mom and dad had other family over, friends over. This picture here with our grandmother, my mom's mom, and I include this picture to honor our grandmother, who adds the Métis heritage that our family has. Terry really thought he'd get back out to Thunder Bay in the spring of 1981, April or May. His health didn't get better. We had a great Christmas with Terry. February 1st of 1981, Terry realized that goal of raising $1 for every Canadian. Terry's health got worse as he got weaker, and on June 28th, 1981, 9 months after he was forced to stop his Marathon of Hope in Thunder Bay, Terry passed away. And this appeared in a Toronto newspaper the next morning, kind of symbolizing that Terry was passing on the Marathon of Hope baton onto each and every one of us to continue. And that's exactly what you guys do here at St. Thomas every year when you've had your Terry Fox run. You've had 7 Terry Fox runs over the years. You're going to have your 8th one on Friday, I believe. And you guys have raised almost $7,000 for cancer research over the years. You need to know that what you do, participating in your walk, Terry Fox Walk, And the fundraising you do, you're making a difference. That's what Terry wanted to do. You're impacting lives. You're making a difference in the lives of those who have cancer. Terry said when he was in Toronto, even if I don't finish, we need others to continue. It's got to keep going without me. So I want to thank you so very much for what you guys have been doing all of these years. You weren't born when Terry started his Marathon of Hope, but you're playing a huge, huge part. I'm going to finish my presentation by quoting our mom. Our mom, as I mentioned, traveled across Canada, and she would often finish her presentations by saying, just like Terry, always set goals and never, ever give up on your dreams. Thank you so much for having me at St. Thomas today. Thank you. Yeah, if you have time. Yeah, I'll do that, yeah.
All right, thank you, Fred, for your insight into the life of Terry and the mission. So I said at the beginning that there was going to be a surprise at the end, and I don't know why this thing's kept in and out, but sorry about that, Fred. What we could maybe do is Fred has agreed to do a lap around our field with us. And so I would like, in an orderly fashion, we're going to exit the school. When your teacher gives you the go-ahead, they can send you to the boot room. Fred will be in the lead. There is Jim who has the banner over there. That is the actual Lloydminster.
Can you hear me better like this? Yeah. Okay. That is the Lloydminster banner that's going to be flown in our city for our Terry Fox run. Fred is going to lead our school in a lap around our field, making sure that no one goes in front of him. This will be something that you will remember for a long, long time. If the primary grades, you feel that's a little much right now, that's okay. If you want to join Fred outside, teachers, you can bring your students to the boot room, take their indoor shoes off, or you can go to your classroom. One of the two, okay? So Fred, I'm gonna ask him to go to the boot room, and Jim at the 4-pack boot room. Teachers, bring your classes when you're ready. Thank you.
I don't have my keys with you. After you guys do that, can one of you guys open up that room for me, please? Is it? Okay. Okay.